This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365. The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Gwilda Wiyaka's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the Science of Magic or endorsed in any manner by Gwilda Wiyaka, rel-mar McConnell Media Company, its affiliated networks, stations, or employees. Welcome to the Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, a program dedicated to uncovering the unified nature of reality and humanity's ever-evolving place as truly galactic beings. For more information on the Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, visit us online at www.thescienceofmagic.net.
Welcome to the Science of Magic, a place where science and magic come together to transform fact into evolving truth. We're proudly coming to you through the ever-expanding X-Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net, and can also be found on our website, thescienceofmagic.net. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. This hour we'll be exploring redreaming the world. I used to puzzle over the belief held by many shamanic traditions: we dream the world into being. Though looking around me right now, I have to say that dream has become somewhat of a nightmare. Another intriguing universal concept is that we are the stewards of the earth. Now there's a tall order, particularly when considering the earth being referred to comprises all of physical reality. There was something my original shamanic teacher used to say when I was whining about my life's circumstances. You dreamed it. If you don't like it, just undream it and dream something else. At the ripe old age of 22 and fully invested in my own victimhood, it used to frustrate me no end. I was in college at the time and just learning about the observer effect, which made less sense to me than my shamanic teacher's statement. If outcome is affected by the expectation of the observer, doesn't that invalidate all scientific testing we still hang our reality hats on? Doesn't it indicate we actually have some sort of mystical power over the physical world? Let's get my hat raw. He said, statistically speaking, not only is it impossible that we're the only planet with intelligent life, it's impossible for creation to be a random act. As my studies in shamanism advanced, the discrepancies in what the science of the time presented as fact continued to mount. My teacher instructed me on shamanic journey trance, which is, in effect, an interactive dream. I had first-hand experience of dreaming events before they happened. I also had experiences seeing what could take place and choosing not to involve myself in it. The predicted outcome later took place, but the decision not to involve myself changed the outcome for me. I'd managed or dreamed a different outcome for myself and taken the necessary steps to create it. Yet science says precognition is impossible. I'm a very sensitive person and can feel the emotions of those around me. Trying to manage my oversensitivity was what drove me to shamanism in the first place. Yet according to science, that's impossible as well. In psychology class, I discovered it was considered a mental illness. Needless to say, I kept my own counsel on campus. My shamanic teacher, however, didn't bat an eye when I shared my sensitivity with him. Instead, he taught me to use it as a diagnostic tool in shamanic healing. I later refined it to the point I use it in medical intuitive sessions. As a preceptor for the University of Colorado School of Medicine, I instruct medical doctors on the interface between shamanism and allopathic medicine. Medical intuitive demonstrations really wow the young docs when my findings are substantiated by MRIs and CAT scans. After all, what I do just isn't scientific. Or is it? Each of us is surrounded by an electromagnetic field. When we're in close proximity to each other, these fields cross. The Earth and Sun are also surrounded by electromagnetic fields that intersect each other, creating what NASA calls X-points. According to NASA, these X-points are wormholes, shortcuts in time and space. Whenever the Sun and the Earth's electromagnetic fields cross, information is exchanged instantaneously. So why not with people? In fact, it's exactly the same with people. It's the basis behind all shamanic practices. All things have electromagnetic fields. These fields intersect, creating X-points that shamans navigate at will through the shamanic journey, trance, or dream. We simply have to learn how to access and decipher the information science has convinced us doesn't exist. Tap into the place where science and magic meet, where all is one, in our imagination, in our waking dreams. Here we can consciously wield the observer effect and redream our world. Our guest this hour is Philip Comella, a lawyer and visionary and futurist. His book, The Collapse of Mainstream Visions of Science, Dreams of God, is a culmination of decades of work committed to developing a new and credible scientific paradigm to unify the physical world of science and the metaphysics of religion. After this commercial break, I'll introduce Philip, and together we'll explore how philosophy, science, religion, and the paranormal all lead to the same place. Could be earth-shattering, so don't go away. You're listening to The Science of Magic. Prior innovative episodes can always be found on our website, thescienceofmagic.net.
This is Johanna Carroll, host of Dialogue with Divinity on the X-Zone Broadcast Network. While walking along Kaanapali Beach in Maui this past year, I kept discovering all these shells and coral in the shape of hearts. My dialogue with Divinity was very simple. Do you want me to do a retreat to heal people's hearts in Maui next year? And of course, the answer was yes. As a master spiritual teacher, I am offering you a neat retreat called Rise, May 8th through the 12th, 2017, and the chance of a lifetime to rest at a 5-star resort for 5 days and experience a spiritual renewal of your heart and soul. Kaanapali is one of the top 5 beaches in the world. This stunning resort has undergone a $40 million renovation. I walked the entire property, checked out the room choices on your behalf, and I must say it is stunning. Our conference room faces the ocean with sliding glass doors. Maui is known as Mother Maui because it is a soft, gentle, healing energy. In the embrace of Mother Maui, you will feel yourself rising from the limitations of an ordinary life to an extraordinary journey of peace, bliss, and harmony. A greater sense of clarity. Our Rise Retreat ignites renewal in the sacred elements of air, water, earth, fire, and wind. There's plenty of free time to enjoy all that Maui has to offer. A small deposit is required now to reserve your space, as this retreat, it will sell out. For more details, please go to johannacarroll.com and register today. Aloha, and I'll see you in mystical Maui.
How would you like to be able to read other people's minds? Well, the next best thing is here. When you know how to read a person's name, you know how the person thinks, feels, and behaves. Each letter in our name holds a key to unlock our true essence. Our name contains both our gifts and challenges in this lifetime. Mnemology science discovers personality secrets hidden in the placement of the letters of our names, including the first and last impression people remember about us. Sharon shows us how to interpret the arrangement of letters as outlined in her book, Know the Name, Know the Person. Sharon Lynn Wyeth created mnemology science after 18 years of research and testing her theories, and has supported thousands of people around the world in understanding themselves and others better. You'll enjoy Sharon's unique teachings as she shares her system to learn the gifts behind your given birth name. Even if you don't like your birth name, there are jewels in this book. If you're thinking of changing your name, ready to name your child, or wanting to get along better with others, this is the book for you. If you'd like to improve your relationships and change your life for the better, get the book today, Know the Name, Know the Person, or visit www.knowthename.com. That's www.knowthename.com.
Welcome back. This is the Science of Magic, dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. This hour, our guest is lawyer, visionary, and futurist Philip Comella, author of The Collapse of Materialism, Visions of Science, and Dreams of God. His website, thecollapseofmaterialism.com. Philip, thank you for joining us on the Science of Magic.
Hey, thanks a lot for having me, and great introduction there.
Oh, thanks. Hey, you're a lawyer. Whatever you do to unite science and religion?
Well, as I like to say, that I'm a man first, philosopher second, and a lawyer third. You have to make a living. I think that there's a lot of things in common between law and science. They both look at logical arguments and evidence to support theories, and I also think the legal training has helped my own approach to developing an argument in favor of this new way of looking at the world.
So where'd you start to get your information from?
Well, I think that missions in life are sort of inborn. I think that from a young age, I had one of these sort of attitudes about trying to figure out what we're doing on this planet Earth, and it's something I was not able to shake. I still can't shake it, and so I wound up going to college for a philosophy degree, and in the philosophy degree and in training and in reading all the great philosophers, thinkers, I came upon a way to sort of unite philosophy and quantum physics, and it sounds sort of maybe fancy, but some other people have gone down this route. But my own route is really combining the findings of the great philosophers with quantum physics and evolution, and finding that there is really a unified way of looking at the world. We don't have to put philosophy, religion, and science, and even the paranormal in different cubby holes or in different books on the shelf. There should be a unified way to view the world with one overarching theory, and that's really what drives me. I don't like splintering our minds into logic and spirituality and paranormal. We have one world. There should be one way to look at it, and that's driven me to write the book, research, continue my writing, continue trying to break down these barriers that are stopping us from viewing the world as a united whole.
It seems like there is a soup, pneumoplasm, if you will, that unites all things. Is that what you consider the quantum field?
Well, I think that the way to approach it is, and you alluded to it in your introduction, is that you have different fields. Quantum physics is one of them. Western idealism, shamanism, Eastern religion, the paranormal. they're different perspectives, but they lead to the same conclusion. For example, I think what the Eastern religion folks call the one mind or Brahma is the same thing as God, is the same thing as the energy field, is the same thing as the quantum field. I think they're all the same. They're just different words. The real difference is whether we believe this field is internally generated or is it generated from outer space. And modern physics, materialism, through the Big Bang Theory and other theories, believe that the laws of physics, matter, came at us, that the laws of nature are outside of what we are. I'm saying that no, that the united mind field, energy field, is the source of the physical world, and it is our structure, our mental structures, and our need for regularity, and our need for a world that ultimately brings us where we're at today. Maybe radical, but when you research it and when you look at some of the great thinkers, I'm not the first one ever to come to this conclusion. I've just tried to update it and put it into terms that folks can understand in the context of our modern culture.
So this leads us to the next question: is tell us about dreaming reality.
Okay, well, this is a important concept, and the most important thing to understand is that in our night dreams, in daytime hallucinations, we know that the mind is capable of conjuring up a real seeming world from nothing. In one of the most recent issues of New Scientist, the weekly publication from the UK, the title was, "Are We Hallucinating Reality?" Because even modern science understands that the mind at least fills in our perception of the world. We know that the mind is capable of conjuring up a real world from nothing through our dreams and hallucinations. But what's different about the way I've approached it is that the public world, the Mother Nature, is a public dream. It's a dream of God. It's a dream of the one mind. And it's funny, this is really what many Eastern philosophers come to, the same conclusion. And maybe I've expressed it in more of a down-to-earth manner than mystical sounding language. But there is a quote that is from I have here from Sir James Jeans. He wrote a book about 100 years ago called The Mysterious Universe, a great book. He said, "Creations of an individual mind may reasonably be called less substantial than creations of a universal mind." So what we have forgotten is that a united mind, if we are united, then I think that unity is an energy source, it's the mind, it's consciousness, whatever you want to call it. And that mind's primary power is the ability to project a real seeming world from nothing. And so we don't dream the world by ourselves. To change the world requires united moral action. And that's the distinction that we need to make. You can't just say, well, the world's a dream, I think I'm going to fly. It doesn't work that way. We have to change the storyline in our modern world from a storyline of blaming others, blaming the world, to taking control of the world, and by taking control of ourselves. So there's a lot there, but I just want to outline it for you there.
There's a lot. I can be chewing on that for a while.
There's a lot there, right? Yeah. What can I say?
I'll start chewing. The collective mind, okay, right. If we consider that, are you talking about the collective mind of humankind or larger than that?
I think that the united mind is synonymous with the collective mind of humankind. It's the same thing. Carl Jung called it the collective unconsciousness. Right. It's the same thing. The difference is that we are in the midst of a story. We're in the midst of a dream. We're in the midst of a 3D simulated projected world. It happens to be the only possible world. And this is why I think this is where science, religion, spirituality, everyone's going, because when you actually evaluate the probabilities of whether is the world a dream or not a dream, it's so much more probable that it is a projection than it is a creation from the Big Bang. And that's something I get into in my book.
Well, this brings up another really interesting question. I don't think any of us can deny that a lot of what we believe and think is programmed by our educational system, our media, our belief systems that are passed down generationally. So how much is this collective story written by the powers that be?
You just hit the nail on the head. That's what the situation is. That when you look at the leading universities, the media, textbooks, Nobel Prize winners, the thought leaders in our current society are scientists. The scientists follow materialism or mechanism, or the machine world, which holds that the world is really a self-operating machine outside of the control of humankind. And so when you go to school to study physics, for example, or medicine, you are getting the story from the mechanistic standpoint, and that gets ingrained into our brains, and that's the storyline or the dream we follow. Okay, and so that's exactly right. That's what's going on, and that particular phenomena, I think, has to change, and this is called, in different words, it's called a scientific revolution. We have to change the paradigm from one that's mechanistic, materialistic, to a paradigm that's holistic, vision-based, mind-based, consciousness-based. We need to start putting these terms into non-mystical scientific terms so that those who want to be logical and scientific could find a home. So that's really what I'm about, which is trying to change the thought leadership, because it's really outdated. The mechanism, materialism, as we know, and as you've done in other shows, quantum theory has disproved the mechanical universe. Yet we still have medicine, physics, biology, everybody following the mechanistic viewpoint, even though the scientists know it's wrong. So we are in a state of conflict right now.
It's scary too, because it's like as long as we feel like As long as we feel like we are disempowered or victims of the machine, we're like children dancing with a loaded gun we think is a toy. We don't know what we're doing.
Right. We tend to. There's a lot of observations that could be made about the negative consequences of following a machine model, but one of them is lack of responsibility for the world and for yourself. We think that we are in a blame game kind of society. We're always looking for somebody else to blame. We're always looking outside of ourselves for the cause, whether it's global warming, whether it's crime, poverty, or something else. We're always looking outside of ourselves, and I think that materialism, or the mechanistic standpoint, perpetuates that line of thinking, because it's like this. If you were given a pen and told, write a story of the kind of person you want to be and the kind of world you want to live in, how many people would write a story that results in the kind of world we're living in right now? I would think that a lot of people would want to live in a happier place, right? So we need to take control and responsibility. It all fits together, and the fact is, Gwilda, that it takes some strength, integrity, courage to get to that point where you say, hey, I'm going to take responsibility for myself, and I'm going to take responsibility for the world, right?
And the buck stops here. We're going to have to take a break. Philip and I will return to this discussion after this short break. We're coming to you through the land of leading-edge paranormal broadcasting, the X Zone Broadcast Network. Don't miss the other fine shows and hosts on xzbn.net. You're listening to The Science of Magic, thescienceofmagic.net. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka. We will be back, so don't you go away. While science pursues fact, magic accesses the quantum level, bridging random facts to form truth. As long as science and magic remain separate and polarized, the truth cannot be known. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka. Join me on the Science of Magic radio program, dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. During each episode, I'll be speaking with experienced and respected scientists and mystics. From astrologers to astronomers, from medical doctors to shaman, the scientific method to dowsing and intuition, we'll weave together information from seemingly divergent practices to promote unity and enlightenment. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, and the Science of Magic right here on the Mutual Broadcast Network. For more information, visit www.thescienceofmagic.net.
Gibbs A. Williams, Ph.D., is a practicing psychoanalyst, supervisor, researcher, and author in New York City. Much of his life has been dedicated to understanding nature and the uses of meaningful coincidences or synchronicities. His radical and original non-Jungian, non-mystical, non-magical theory of synchronicities illuminates much of the fog surrounding this challenging and perplexing topic. His ideas and manners are fresh, presented in a style that is both entertaining and highly informative. He is also an expert on crisis intervention, specially focused on violence reduction for the police and citizens, mastering anxiety, frustration, and stress without the use of medication, and effectively preventing and treating heroin addiction. Dr. Williams can be contacted at his email address at gwwilliamsny11@aol.com or visit his website at...
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? Well then, meet Dr. Kimberly McGeorge and her cutting-edge breakthrough knowledge that combines science with possibility. Dr. Kimberly brings real-life answers and healing to those open to alternative solutions. She teaches solution-based programs and classes that will change all areas of your life forever. Specializing in conscious creation, intuitive readings, and energy medicine, you can rapidly shift health, relationships, business, and money and abundance challenges quickly. Receive her best-selling book, Secret to Everything, at no cost by going to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone. That's right, transformation can start now. Just go to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone and receive Dr. Kimberly's book for free.
Afterlife expert Roberta Grimes was the first one to say that dying can be fun. Now her best-selling book, The Fun of Dying, is available in stores worldwide. So if you wonder whether death ends life, how it feels to die, or what heaven might be like, The Fun of Dying was written for you. And if you have always been afraid of death, or if you worry that your life has no meaning, let The Fun of Dying ease your fears and bring new meaning to your life. Nothing said in The Fun of Dying is based on the teachings of any religion. Instead, Roberta draws on evidence to explain how death happens, how it feels, and what comes next. A lot of the best death-related evidence was produced in the first half of the 20th century. When it is put together with recent discoveries, it tells a consistent and amazing story. Roberta Grimes blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com. Her wonderful book, The Fun of Dying.
Welcome back. This is the Science of Magic, a place where magic and science come together to promote enlightenment. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Our guest this hour is lawyer, visionary, and futurist Philip Comella, author of The Collapse of Mainstream, Visions of Science, Dreams of God. Philip, before the break, we were talking about what's a subject that's very near and dear to my heart, and that's the blame game. As long as we're pointing our finger at somebody else, all the power goes right out the end of our finger. But don't you think that we've been programmed into this victim stance through guilt and shame from many of our religions?
Yeah, I think that there's a point there that is accurate. Yes, and I think that the religious orthodoxy has not been particularly helpful to encouraging people to take personal responsibility. And I think that those of us that were raised Catholic, it seems like a lot of people were raised Catholic, and the whole question about original sin and being guilty, having fun, and sort of setting up this dichotomy between humans and this perfect being, instead of engaging in moral action, which is what I believe Jesus Christ is all about, that has been a real problem. And so it's not just science that needs to be changed, but I think that religion needs to evolve. To me, it's noteworthy that more and more people are leaving Orthodox religion and thinking for themselves, thinking through these things, these big issues. Because ultimately, you've got to bring God down to earth. Ultimately, you have to bring these principles into your daily life. It doesn't do a lot of good reading about it, and then acting contrary to the fundamental principles. So I do think religion has had something to do with it, with the problem.
So we're controlled through guilt rather than our internal promptings and our own intelligence.
Right. I like to think that we are little gods in the making, where we are unlimited creatures with unlimited potential, and when we're raised with limitations. I mean, it's more severe if you look at the Middle East, the communist countries, the countries that more constrain freedom, are very good examples of how a child is born with unlimited potential, with vision, with imagination, and over time, society, through the power of religion, science, politics, that vision is constrained and is limited and in many cases imprisoned. And so when you look at, some of the great stories of time are people breaking out of those limitations. Martin Luther King, Abraham Lincoln, Gandhi, these are people that the spirit freedom overcomes the limitation. And so to me, that is saying that we need to let the spirit free. We need to think freely. We need to think for ourselves and really sort of experience our full potential. And there's hundreds of books, Gwilda, as you know, on this principle, on this principle of reach your potential, be the person you can be. And all that stuff I agree with. It's just that we need to ingrain that more universally in our world, in our children particularly, so we don't sell ourselves short.
What's the real dream worldview that you speak of?
Well, it's the principle that when you think about it, one of the objections to the world being a dream is that, gosh, this world sure seems a lot more real than the dreams I have at night. And geez, it's not real flimsy, it's hard and solid. You kick a wall, that's not a dream. Well, the problem is with that objection is that we are part of the dream. We are spirits in a spiritual world, so the world is real to us. That's the real dream worldview. That we are the same substance as the world at large, and therefore it is real. It's as real as reality will ever be. And so it's meant to address this objection that, this is the universe, Mother Nature is not some kind of flimsy fly-by-night illusion. I'm saying you're exactly right. It's not, because we are part of that illusion, and we could just remove the word illusion, we are real beings in a real world, and a world that's real to us. So maybe it takes some thinking, but that's the logic behind the real world.
I feel like my brain's
real dream world.
I feel like my brain's oozing out of my ears.
Yeah, well, it takes some. The thing is anything takes time. I tell people when I talk about this, there's a passage in the book Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse that is exactly what I just said, and I came to it. I read it after I came up with this real world dream view, or real dream world view. That Siddhartha himself in that book responds to the objection about the world being Maya or illusion in Buddhism by saying, well, he doesn't mind that objection because if the world is an illusion, then so am I, and it's the same substance as me. And so it's something that just takes a little thinking, but you sleep on it and it makes sense. So,
I'm going to hold you to that one. So how much does this have to do with frequency and our ability to alter frequency?
Well, I don't know how. I think the word frequency is sort of a kind of like a metaphor, and I think that we use a lot of these terms like being in tune, or frequency, or wavelengths, as sort of ways to describe this flow of the world, of being in tune, being in touch with your inner self. There's this from the book The Celestine Prophecy, although it's been much ridiculed over the years as being one of the first New Age books. But in that book, one of the principles there, he said that when you are in tune with the world, synchronicities happen more frequently. When you are fulfilling your life's goal, when you're being real to yourself, and I call that being in tune with the world, with the way, with the Tao, and so I think all that is similar to the concept of frequency, which is sort of like putting out good vibrations, being a positive person, showing loving kindness to others. So, to me, a lot of this requires experimentation. I don't know everything, that's for sure. I know hardly anything, but I do know that if you want to have a more optimistic viewpoint, a better, brighter future, this way of thinking is better than the mechanical worldview.
Got it.
And
so,
it takes. That's good.
So, like Einstein said, everything in it is energy, and that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. This isn't philosophy. This is physics, and that's what I was relating to. It sounds like you're talking about the same thing. Yeah,
that's exactly right. And the whole E equals MC squared, which I guess he just imagined, intuited, because he didn't do a calculation and test it. But it's so which is interesting in itself, by the way, that formula. But I think that it's exactly right. I would agree with it. Matter is energy. The only difference is that our internal states is the source of the energy. The energy isn't coming from outer space. See, that's the only difference. And so when you look at it like, well, it's not just in our stomachs. We are out in the world, but the ultimate power, the ultimate source of the energy has to be internally driven, because that is what we know best, and that's how we can explain the world we live in. And this whole thing about precognitive dreams you mentioned in your intro, and visioning a positive solution, like Jack Nicklaus talks about, imagining the ball landing softly on the green. This is all sort of the game you play in a dream world. This is how it works. The reason why it works is, and it should work, is because that's the nature of our world. It's not just some kind of mystical, sort of happenstance. we are now dealing with the structure of the world, and for those who want to improve themselves, it makes sense to align your life strategy with the way the world works. If you want to experiment, people experiment with this all the time. I think it's better go in this direction, as I said, than pretending that we're going to have 53 operations and surgeries and all these chemicals to get, to become better people. I think it's better being positive from the inside out.
So again, you're speaking about envisioning or matching the frequency of the reality we want. Right. We go inside. That's where we do that.
Right. I think that is. So this is sort of like a subject matter for a new science when you think about it, and because we don't know very much. There's been a lot of paranormal experiments, for example, a lot of placebo experiments with and mass prayers with this kind of sort of thinking, and this to me is the new science. We don't know what power an individual person has over themselves or the world. I do know that there's a depth to it, and I think there's a breadth to it. In other words, the deeper you understand, believe these things, like in a prayer, the more power you have. And I do think that critical mass, a community, a village of believers, like-minded people, also has an effect. I just don't know to what degree. And I think that is an area of future science, which I happen to think is very exciting, as opposed to sending a explorer to Pluto or something. So
why not just send our consciousness, right?
Yeah. I just think that people who go to Pluto are going to find one very cold rock, as opposed to doing what I'm talking about, which is maybe you might find yourself happier, healthier, younger, a longer life, happy, But everyone's got to make their own decisions on how they want to live their life, and this is something that my overall point, if you want to, is that everybody should face the big questions once in their life and think it through honestly. And if you just do that, then you've done more than 95% of the people. A lot of people, as we discussed, so just go the way of the thought leaders, of the politicians, the professors.
We're going to have to take another break and pick up with this on the other side. I really want to talk about the big question on the other side. So Philip and I will be back shortly. You're listening to The Science of Magic, thescienceofmagic.net, the place where altruistic professionals of science and the esoteric create common ground for the betterment of our world. This is brought to you by the X-Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net. Don't go away. Philip and I will be back on the other side.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? Well then, meet Dr. Kimberly McGeorge and her cutting-edge breakthrough knowledge that combines science with possibility. Dr. Kimberly brings real-life answers and healing to those open to alternative solutions. She teaches solution-based programs and classes that will change all areas of your life forever. Specializing in conscious creation, intuitive readings, and energy medicine, you can rapidly shift health, relationships, business, and money and abundance challenges quickly. Receive her best-selling book, Secret to Everything, at no cost by going to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone. That's right, transformation can start now. Just go to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone and receive Dr. Kimberly's book for free.
What Happened in Benghazi is revealed by Nicholas Scienec, author of Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. He informs the American people that President Obama deceived them by advocating a strong foreign policy prior to the 2012 presidential election, and Hillary Clinton supported this deception. As the title infers, there is a connection between Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. Ample evidence informs Americans that Obama's early indoctrination in the Quran developed an affinity for Islam, why the Quran is the source of discontent in many countries, and why the Obama foreign policy deception led to poor military action and caused the loss of American lives in Benghazi. Scienec provides 36 questions for the Select Committee on Benghazi to validate if Americans are justified to mistrust President Obama and Hillary Clinton. An overview of Obama, Islam, and Benghazi is presented on the website www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com. You're listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
Welcome back. This is the Science of Magic, bringing together gifted people of service to the world. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Our guest this hour is lawyer, visionary, and futurist Philip Comella, author of The Collapse of Materialism, Visions of Science, Dreams of God. When we went into the break, Philip, you had just started talking about the big question. Would you take up from there, please?
By big questions, I really mean nothing too out of the ordinary. I mean the questions of what are we? What are we doing on this planet? What or who is God? What is the purpose of life? Those kinds of questions. The big questions that philosophy ponders, and I think the big questions that everybody needs to face. Now, I'm obviously prejudiced on this point. Maybe bias is the right word, in that I do have a degree in philosophy, and I feel strongly in education, and I think that a lot of people skip over the big questions and let other people answer them for them, such as religious leaders and scientists. But I think it's really healthy to face those questions individually. And my own, I have my own radio show called Conversations Beyond Science and Religion, and my sense is that more and more people are thinking for themselves. It's one of the spoken hallmarks of our modern world. I think more and more people are asking the big questions, and I'm very much in favor of doing that in an uninhibited manner that is free and open, the kind of discussions that some of us used to have in our dorm rooms when we were freshmen, when we didn't know any better. And to me, that's extremely important, because it asks the question: are the big people, are the people answering these questions, the scientists, religious folks, are they leading us in the right direction? Should we raise our hand and say, are you sure about this? Is there a better way? That's really what I'm about. I'm about questioning authority and making them prove their points. So that's really what it all comes down to.
Our guest this hour is lawyer, visionary, and futurist Philip Comella, author of The Collapse of Materialism, Visions of Science, Dreams of God. Philip's website is thecollapseofmaterialism.com. Philip, what do you mean by the collapse of materialism?
What I mean is that this notion that the world is a machine, that it consists only of tiny particles in motion, that there is no connection between people, between us and the world, and that there's no purpose in life, and that the world can be explained from creation to the apocalypse, to the end of all times, only as a random creation in the Big Bang, that era, that belief system is collapsing because it does not explain the full range of human experience. And more people are starting to understand that. When you, for example, the proof of heaven, the near-death experiences, the paranormal, the synchronicity, the fine-tuning of the universe, and then you add in the fact that quantum theory, as I mentioned, disproves the mechanical world to begin with, it's time for this worldview to end, to pass off into the distance, and a new way of thinking, a new worldview rise up in its place, which is a mind-based, energy-based, human-based way of looking at the world. And so I'm trying to accelerate the materialism.
It seems to me like we're in the middle of a big crash here. There's a lot of evidence converging from every aspect of our experience that speaks of unity, that speaks that we have power, that speaks that we are the creators or co-creators. So why do you think it's such a well-kept secret that we have the power to create reality?
I think that it comes down to this may be a bit, how can I put this, a bit cynical, but I think it comes down to the folks in power do not want to give up the power. There is an article, I think it's by Eugene Wigner. He asked the question, why? This is like 100 years old, this article, or 90 years old. He says, why do so many people still believe in this materialistic worldview? And the answer is because it's hard to give up a worldview that you've devoted life to supporting. It's inertia, Gwilda. I think it's pride. I mean, respect. There's a book by Lee Smolin, with physics, which I had to recommend, on string theory, and the point he makes in that book is how difficult it is for young science students to learn or anything other than string theory, because that's the governing, leading theory in physics departments right now. And if you want to do something different, you're not going to get a job, you're not going to get a professorship, you're not going to get the grant. And so this is the overarching reason is because those people in control, they're controlling the airwaves, they're trying not to let dissent get in the way because it jeopardizes their standing. So I'm maybe that's a cynical approach, but you asked me the question. I tend to be a little radical on this. I think it's going to come crumbling down by the sheer weight of the evidence. But I think that's what we're dealing with.
Well, that's a day I look forward to when we're all set free of the dogma, really. Philip, you have this beautiful statement.
Go ahead.
You have this beautiful statement. We're not random collections of stardust, but instead one mind rising to the realization that together we dream the world and the stars overhead. Would you please explain to me what that means?
Well, there is a evolution going on in a very important way that some folks, such as I had a guest last week, Richard Barrett and Ken Wilber, are understanding. It's the evolution of consciousness, evolution of awareness. It's a maturation of the mind. We are gradually. I think that another untold story that not enough attention is given to is that we are gradually realizing who we really are in the core of our beings. And eventually we reach that point where we understand we are the world, we're part of the world. The same thing that you've been talking about here and on your other shows. I mean, we have, it's the natural, I think it's a natural evolution. I've asked guests on my show this, is it natural, or is this something that you wake up one day and you say, well, I want to evolve my consciousness? And the answer is, I think it's a natural thing, because kids and free minds are constantly coming into the world. The world is becoming more free. We're thinking for ourselves. And so you compare that sort of tidal wave of realization against this scientific opinion that we're just collections of stardust with no meaning or purpose in life. And you compare the two, and I say, well, I tell you which one I think is sort of true, which is I think we're rising to the realization that we're one with the world. Michael Jackson was right with that song, We Are the World, and that the only source of the world can be ourselves. It's a radical thought, and I tell you, I wrote most of my book 20 years ago. Imagine how radical it was 20 years ago. So it's not as radical today as it was 20 years ago. I wrote a lot of it. I mean, it took me 30 years to write the Collapse of Materialism, and over time, I'm seeing more and more people coming to the same conclusion, and it's in different ways. And so it's really refreshing to me. That says, hey, we are evolving, we are changing because other people are starting to think the same way.
And what do you think this new paradigm is going to do to society at large?
It's going to make a much more loving, caring, peaceful society. The ultimate goal of this whole enterprise, of my whole enterprise, is to put into physical form the truth that we are one. Well, how do you put into physical form that? That sounds fancy. Well, the answer is you act morally. You move you follow the golden rule. Imagine in science class, people, instead of being taught were random creations from the Big Bang that just happen to exist and it's just one of those things that happens from time to time, there's no purpose in the world. Imagine being taught that or put that to the side. Now imagine people being taught that we are the product of a miracle. Folks pray to God, but now we realize that we are really the source of a power we'll never understand. It's a miracle, and our jobs on the face of the earth is to be guardians of the dream, is to be stewards of the environment, of Mother Nature, to appreciate this amazing wonder that we find ourselves in. But people, because they've looked at like random creation, thinks that it's just something that, you roll out of bed and there it is. It's like it happens from day to day. We have an unbelievable underappreciation of the miracle that is the world. And I think that needs to be taught. That needs to be recognized. You could put it in fancy science books, textbooks, whatever. But if we stop pretending as if, that you can't be logical and spiritual at the same time, then that's where we're heading. We're heading to a more spiritual type science as opposed to this hard machine-like science.
Time flies and we're out of it. Philip, thank you so much for being on our show. Our guest this hour has been lawyer, visionary, and futurist Philip Comella, author of The Collapse of Materialism, Visions of Science, Dreams of God. His website, thecollapseofmaterialism.com. This has been The Science of Magic. Remember, you can always listen to past thought-provoking episodes on our website, thescienceofmagic.net. Don't forget to join us on the next episode of The Science of Magic. Until next time, dear ones, may you be blessed with knowledge and comforted with love as you redream your world.
Searching for